Thanks for waiting around, guys. I'm at the end of what's probably been a very long 2 days for everybody. My name's Chris Gilchrist. I'm here to tell you about Davenport Resources. We're ASX and Frankfurt listed. We've captured the cream of the potash assets of the former GDR, more commonly known as East Germany. Quick message from the lawyers. Give you 3 seconds to read that. Okay, potash was the single largest source of foreign exchange in the former GDR. They produced about 3.5 million tons per annum from 5 mines in the South Harz region of Germany. Historically, they produced 182 million tons of potash from the region since 1890. We presently own licenses to a total of 659 square kilometers in this region. Excuse me. More importantly, we've acquired 3 perpetual mining licenses in the area. Those are Ebeleben, Mühlhausen, Kula, Elende, and a small area in the north called Omgebirge. We bought these licenses last year from the German government for 1.3 million euros. Unusually, but remarkably, these licenses carry no rent and no development obligations. They're perpetual in nature. We can keep them forever if we wish. If we mine them, we will pay no royalties whatsoever. The reason for this is they were granted by the former communist state to the state mining company, so expenditure commitments, royalties, etc., didn't enter the equation. And when we acquired those licenses from the German government, they didn't tag on royalties, etc., which possibly they slipped up there, but never mind. When we acquired the licenses, we also inherited the results of an intensive and diligent drilling program conducted between the 1960s and the 1980s. The areas lie in the boundaries of mines which were closed down following German reunification. The areas we control were earmarked for mining, but they were not mined. They were basically next door to existing mines, and they were going to be mined. Historic resources were declared by the former GDR state potash mining company. In fact, they were declared as C1 reserves under the Russian Federation system. However, they're not recognized in the West, and our task was to convert those to JORC. We've also got 2 exploration licenses in the same area, for which we also acquired a bunch of data from previous exploration campaigns. The 2 areas in yellow here, Kuhlstedt and Grafentona, the licenses were granted 2 years ago, and they expire in January next year, but we're presently in discussions with the authorities with regard to exercising our option to extend those licenses. Just getting back to the perpetual mining license areas, we contracted with Micon International to convert the former Russian Federation resources to JORC. JORC because we are ASX listed, of course. Micon has a long and successful history of converting former Russian resources to, or former Soviet resources to JORC and to SIM 43101. And they've done the same function for many Western companies who have previously acquired assets in the former Soviet bloc. The first area shown here, Ebeleben, we declared it in April of last year. It contains an inferred resource of 576 million tons, of which 324 million tons is sylvinite. Sylvinite is the potash ore of first choice. It's a mixture of potassium chloride and sodium chloride. Ebeleben has intersections of sylvinite up to 23 meters in thickness and extremely low insoluble levels, less than 1%. Insolubles interfere with the recovery process, particularly if you're using a flotation process to recover the potash. We then turned our attentions to the Mühlhausen, Kula, and Nora area. We released a JORC inferred resource for here late October last year and early November. It contains 2.83 billion tons of resource. The resource in the north, that's in the red area where you can see it's very closely drilled, it's up to 45 meters in thickness and lies at 477 meters below surface. The bulk of the sylvinite, however, lies in the southern portion in the green area, and there are about 850 million tons of sylvinite in this area. Average thickness about 12 meters. Average grade about 12 to 14% K2O. And we also have sulfatic and magnesium-containing potash minerals, such as langbonite and, of course, the ever-popular polyhalite. Omgeberger is the smallest of our three areas, but it's relatively shallow and contains enough potash to sustain a medium-sized mine. Perhaps the ideal place for a junior to enter production at a low capex. This slide is simply a confirmation of the two exploration license areas. We've converted some of the historic resources at Kolstedt to JORC, and I'll show you that in the next slide. So in February of this year, we declared a whopping 1.58 billion ton resource in this shaded area you can see on the slide. Most of it's carnallite, which is the ore of second choice, but there's still a decent amount of sylvanite also involved. Again, the resources contain the ever-popular multi-nutrient sulfate-type potash minerals such as magnesium sulfate and potassium sulfate. Grafenton is a huge area with a massive exploration target. However, it's not our top priority at this time. It would cost too much money to drill it out, and it's a little bit deeper than the rest of the other areas. So our total JORC inferred resource within our portfolio stands at just short of 5 billion tons. About 1.6 billion tons of this is sylvanite, and 3.3 billion tons is carnallite. Of course, potash can be recovered from carnallite, but it's generally of a lower grade because the mineralogy is diluted by the presence of magnesium chloride. As the bulk of our license areas remain unexplored, we expect this resource will grow in size. So here on this slide, we show a summary of what we believe to be the project, the potential for our portfolio of assets. Mulhausen is a tier 1 asset with huge resources, potential for potassium, magnesium sulfate, as well as chlorides. This is probably where a major would focus his attentions. However, that might not be the correct first priority for a company of our size. Remember, these mining licenses are perpetual in nature, so we're not pressurized by time. Ebeleben was meant to be the extension of the former Falkenrode mine. It's got potential for a medium-sized potash mine of long life. It's got excellent sylvanite grades, and it's got sylvanite intersections of up to 23 meters. Norra Elendi has a massive carnallite resource and probably lends itself to be a solution mine. The carnallite is up to 45 meters in thickness, and it would lend itself to extremely long life productive solution caverns. There's already a solution mine very close by, in fact. Finally, Omgeberger might have potential for a modestly priced starter mine. Here is the comparison with other potash projects. It's, of course, very difficult to show comparisons on a strict apples for apples basis, so I'd like to sort of point out some of the differences. First slide here, we show what I call sort of more mature projects, which we certainly don't fall into that category at this stage. We compare 3 projects in Europe and 2 in Africa. Interestingly, they've all got an Australian sort of flavor. Contrary to popular belief, of course, size isn't everything, and clearly the important point is to turn our project into an economic project. Davenport has yet to elevate to inferred resources, to measured and indicated resources. We've only got inferred resources because we've converted former Soviet resources to JORC, but we don't have drill core. We've got everything else. We've got downhole geophysics and all the other information, seismics, etc., but we don't have drill core. The drill core was destroyed many years ago. These pure projects have already achieved quite a considerable value, and you can see on the bottom here the EV per ton is quite significant, with the exception of the core project in the Congo, which probably probably because of the fact that it's in the Congo is probably the reason for its low EV value, which is unfortunate. It's a very good deposit. Possibly a better comparison is with the Emerson Project in Morocco. They've declared an inferred resource of just over 300 million tons of carnallite. At this time, they've probably done a lot more marketing than Davenport. And this is reflected in their value. They've been able to announce results of a scoping study based on an inferred resource. Unfortunately, because we are listed on ASX, we cannot get away with the same thing. But nevertheless, it's worked in their favor, and good luck to them, and they're showing a respectable value, certainly compared to ourselves, which I think this demonstrates that we're significantly undervalued. Just very briefly on the potash market, it certainly shows more optimism for the past 5 or 6 years. Prices into China have recently been settled at about $60 per ton higher than last year. Spot prices into Brazil and Southeast Asia are climbing to levels in excess of $300. So we are certainly in a much better place than we were some years ago. Market intelligence reports are all reasonably bullish. And there's obviously no replacement for potassium as far as plants are concerned, so obviously potash is here to stay. So what does Davenport do next? Well, we see ourselves potentially as a company holding 4 or 5 potential projects. Each is quite different in terms of size, mineralogy, depth. We've commissioned 4 scoping studies using respected salt and potash consultancy, KU Tech, who are in this area in Germany. They were the former GDR Institute for Potash Mining and Processing, and in 1991 they privatized and became a consultancy. So we're using them. We did a study on the Mulhausen area, and that's been completed. And the CapEx and OpEx were both very encouraging, particularly because of the location. There's a very low infrastructure element to the CapEx because we're in a mature country like Germany where it's crisscrossed with pipelines and water and gas and so on. We've recently commissioned a further 3 scoping studies, and we expect them to be delivered sequentially over the next 5 months. So those studies will allow us to place a value on the projects within the portfolio and allow us to have meaningful discussions with potential project partners. We've already commenced discussions with a well-known potash company over a potential joint venture on one of our projects. Ultimately, we need to drill to recover core so that we can bring inferred resources up to measured and indicated. However, we only need to put down about between 2 and 4 holes in each project area. We've earmarked sites for drilling already, and in some cases we've obtained landowner and local council permission to do the drilling. But until we do the scoping studies and assess the various projects, we won't be doing any drilling. Just finally, in summary, a reminder of why we believe we're a compelling investment case. We've got large, high-quality, long-life resources in a safe jurisdiction in Germany. We've got supportive regional government and permitting authority. We've got proximity to a huge European market. Europe is a net potash importer. We have a management team with extensive potash experience and a reputation for project delivery. I used to be MD of Britain's only potash mine, Cleveland Potash in the north of England. We've also got Jason Wilkinson, the project director, who has extensive potash experience, and until recently was a project director for Alana Potash in Ethiopia. So basically, we know the business, and we know that we can do the business. So ladies and gents, I give you Davenport Resources, which is Europe's largest potash inventory. Thank you.